It is 6:30 p.m. I'd like to call to order this special meeting of the Old Saybrook Police Commission. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. All the members of the commission are present. One Commissioner, Jessica Kaye, is present by Zoom. We are also joined by our ex officio member, the First Selectman, Paul. We begin with comments from the public. Let me look around the room at the live audience. Ms. Mahal.
Hello.
Linda Mahal.
Yeah, my name is Linda Mahal. I'm an Old Saybrook resident. I'm just gonna set my timer and try to keep an eye on
If you would come a little closer to the microphone.
Thank you.
Okay. The first, well, I spent a good portion of my day today really reading through the perf report. And the number one thing I want to say is thank you to the currently employed Old Saybrook Police Department employees who had the courage and the integrity and the concern for our town and their fellow workers to come forward and interview with the consultants from Perth. I found the report deeply distressing. Mr. Fortuna has used words like troubling and damning. I cannot tell you how distressing I found that report. And I can't believe that it's gone so many years with our officers in like what I consider like the equivalent of sweatshop working conditions in this town. For example, the officer who was quoted as talking about working 21 days in a row. And then on top of that, almost having to work on his 21st day, another extra overtime shift. I can't believe that's happening here. I feel like this department has been in the dark ages and nobody's known about it. And so I'm very grateful that the selectmen and the commission commissioned this report. I feel there's no confidence in the leadership of this department that we can reasonably have. And to deny what we see in that report is incredibly dangerous for everyone involved, everyone who passes through this town, for our employees, for their families, their spouses, their children, their loved ones, because the stress they must be under must have a ripple effect. I have 44 seconds left. Even the union leadership, who generally praised the chief of police, described the culture as paramilitary. And I would like everyone to think about that. Para means near to or resembling, and military, of course, means related to combat or war. In this society, we have a military, we have a National Guard, and we have police departments. We do not have paramilitaries. That is something that happens in awful places in civil wars, and they are rogue states within the state. Please do something about this. Thank you.
I should have said at the outset that we are limited to 3 minutes for individual public comment and 30 minutes altogether. With that in mind, let me continue to look around the room.
Is there another one at the end of the meeting?
Yes, there is.
Mr. Wilk.
I'm sorry. Yes.
So my name is Allison Tanner. I'm here a little bit more as a resident, but I'm also a per diem patrolman with the department. I feel to an extent our tax dollars were stolen by PERT. Anyone with an advanced degree understands research methods, which were not present in the report. It was a very subjective review of our benefits. It was not objective. There were not statistics. There were not facts. I ran the numbers real quick. All the officers in East Lyme who said they took a pay cut will actually make well over $1 million more than an Old Saybrook office. Excuse me. over the course of their career because of how the pay structure is. That's a big difference. They have 70% of their top 3 years, including overtime, as their 25-year pension. And just to leave out important facts about that is only hurting the officers who are still employed, who still like to work here, and who still like to work for the chief. I just feel that you really need to take into consideration what was left out of the report as much as what was put in. Including, I did give them a statement that I would still be full-time. I would have never dropped down a per diem if the contract was better. They acknowledged receipt of that. They said it was valuable, but yet didn't put it in the report. I think it questions the integrity of the report. It questions the integrity of the investigation, and you can't take it on its face value. And I would just like everyone to consider that when they're making their decision.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else in the live audience? Larry, if we may, are there any hands raised? at this
There are
point?
4 hands raised. We'll start with Eric.
Please identify yourself and give us your statement. Are you unmuted? We can't hear you.
Move on to the next one. Justin Bagnati.
Hi there, can you hear me?
We can.
All right, excellent, thank you. So I grew up here in town. Moved away for about 20 years and then moved back to raise my kids. I have 3 kids in the school system. I grew up with Chief Mosca as the chief of police in town. Chief Spira he worked at the far side when I was a kid. And yeah, I guess my whole point is when I read the perf report and everything that I know and all the reasons that I moved back to town, Old Saybrook is a tight ship. Everybody around knows you don't mess around in Old Saybrook. The police will nip you for whatever bad thing you do. And that's why I wanted to raise my kids here. And when I was reading the report about Chief Spira making comments like, stay off your phone, get out of your car at traffic stops, all those things to me just resonated as totally reasonable as a taxpayer and somebody who wanted to have something that was reasonable in my town for the police department. I guess, I don't know, I just felt like the report was a bit biased. And I know there was a comment about paramilitary and things like that, but I don't want the town that I raised my family in to be run willy-nilly. I want it to be, you know, tight. And I just feel like it has been for a lot of years. And if some of the employees have a little bit of trouble with it being tough, hopefully we can pay them appropriately to make it worth it to be tough. But I think as a resident, it should be. And I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Who's next, Larry?
Ryan Walsh.
Mr. Walsh?
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I apologize. I can't be there in person. So my name is Ryan Walsh. I'm an Old Saybrook resident. My family's had a home here since the early 80s. I'm currently the senior sergeant with the police department. And after 20 years of avoiding it, I became the union president. I just want to address the paramilitary statement. So I was part of that conversation with PERF, and it was truly weaponized in the report. The union will be addressing the entire PERF report shortly. It's hard to get all of us together and meeting with our union reps, so we have not had a time to do that. But the paramilitary statement was a fact that there's a command structure. And yes, there's a chief of police, there's sergeants, there's patrolmen, and, some people have a hard time with that. Essentially, you're told what to do as a police officer, and that's how police structure works in the 20th century. I think that, as a group, we've moved forward from a lot of the bad eggs that have moved on, and the current culture of the police department is much different than what is portrayed in the perf study. And hopefully, once our group is able to get together and portray that, we'll be able to present that to the police commission.
Thank you, sir. And forgive me, I didn't recognize that you were Sergeant Walsh.
Bart Galong,
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, I had not planned to speak, but with the support the chief has, I feel that I have to make a statement. I am fourth generation in Old Saybrook. I moved back to town in 2012 after I sold my business and retired. And I heard rumblings, but then was finally told by multiple people, be careful in this town, because if you're the chief's friend, you can do almost anything. If you're on the chief's bad side, look out. He'll get you somehow. And I really kind of shrugged that off. But the business I was in, my partner and I developed a product called Quick Clot and Quick Clot Combat Gauze. It's a rapid hemostatic agent that every officer carries. Most officers in the country carry it. Every soldier, every Marine also carries it. It stops high volume bleeding. I had retired, but I still had access to the product. So I took some up to the chief. I made an appointment to go see the chief. I wanted to, as a gesture of goodwill, even though I knew that every officer had it, I wanted to give him the product to give to the officers so they could carry it in their private vehicles. I met the chief. The first thing the chief said to me is, "You should hire me." I was grossly taken aback by that. And I said, "I'll hire you." And he said, "Yeah, I know every police chief in the state. I can get your product out there and sell it for you." Well, we were doing pretty well with our product anyway, but that really made me question who is this guy? What I realized then, and I found out then, was that I was a friend. I was a friend of the chief from then on. And 2 years later, I had a boat. I freely admit that it was late Sunday afternoon, and I did not slow down going past Hull Harbor 1, and past the docks in the no wake zone. I sped through, and the police boat was hiding behind the bulkhead in Harbor 1. Popped out, pulled me over, and I said, "Gosh, I know Chief Spira." They called the chief. The chief told them not to give me a ticket. The officer said to me, "I would have given you a ticket," but the chief said not to. I was obviously very relieved and felt like, gee, that's nice and special. But then later on, I started
Mr.
to
DeLong,
hear.
let me interrupt. Your time is up. Thank you. very
One
much
last
for your-
sentence. One last sentence.
We'll give you
It's
time.
important
Okay.
to the point. That made me realize that if I'm on the chief's good side, who's on the chief's bad side, and how do they suffer from being on the chief's bad side?
Thank you, sir.
That kind of treatment doesn't
Thank you.
work.
Yeah, thank you.
Kelly Davis,
Hi, my name is Kelly Davis. My family has been in Saybrook since the early 80s. I think that there's so many good points that have been made tonight, but I just want to say that, what the gentleman who just spoke before me said is the worst kept secret in town. Everybody knows it, right? So I agree that we want to run a tight ship. We want to have a clean community. And sometimes you have to make tough decisions to do that. But I think that there needs to be some more oversight of what exactly is going on in there. And it needs to be some unbiased oversight. It needs to not be a friend of a friend. It needs to not be a consultant that's been hired multiple times. We need to have a transparent process where we can get somebody in there to see what's really going on and make the changes that need to be made. Saybrook's small town, and these are small town politics. I appreciate it. That's why we live here. That's why we've stayed here. At the same time, these worst kept secrets are going to keep coming to light, and we're always going to be chasing the 8 ball if we don't make the necessary changes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Larry, do we have any other hands?
We've got a few more. Mark Bruder.
Yes, hi. So
We can hear you.
We lost him. It's coming back.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, hi. So we moved here in 2003. We've raised 5 kids here. It's a great town. I think the 2 things that I'd like to just, hear about is reading through the perf study. How is it that the police department here has a set of rules that don't seem to be in line with a normal police policing town? Like I don't understand how officers can be working so many days in a row, and how there's other things that are going on that don't happen probably in other towns. That's the first thing. The second thing is, in the private sector, when you're training a new employee, it costs thousands of dollars. I don't know what it costs to train a cadet or a policeman in this town, but if we're training multiple officers over and over, it's costing this town and everybody in the town thousands of dollars. So if we've trained 20 officers that have left for somewhere else, and you take an average of, say, $20,000 or $25,000, you're looking at $500,000 that we've basically, lost because officers have left. So those are my 2 questions or points that I wanted to bring up. I understand, the other caller talked about having a strict police department. I think you can have a strict police department, but you don't have to go to such extremes to have a strict police department. So, and regarding the police officer who talked about, the pay, that goes on in every town. My wife's a teacher in this town. She's not making as much as somebody in another town. That's just part of the deal. Every town has its own budget. So those are the points I wanted to bring out. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Larry, anyone else?
There are 2 more. Eric.
Hello, yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Sorry, I had to switch devices. So briefly, I would just like to go over some real quick bullet points that either I want to reiterate for the PERF study for the public, because the general public doesn't really always want to read 96 pages, and some of the stuff I feel like they left out. First
Eric,
thing was
let me interrupt, Eric. What's your last name?
Forsey.
Thank you.
So the PERF needed to retain legal counsel due to threats from SPARA. Police officers very often use, if you've got nothing to hide, then why not let us search your vehicle? I just found it kind of absurd that he kind of doesn't follow that same policy. I don't know why he'd be threatening people and trying to interfere with something. That's not something a good police officer does. The sergeant that refused to be interviewed, PERF had said that they would be the only person to attest to leaving for a reason other than SPARA. PERF, Perf has never seen this level of anxiety from his interviewees. Spera tried to taint interviewees by threatening them with losing bargaining power. Why would he be telling people that wanted to interview about him that they shouldn't talk to Perf because it might hurt their bargaining power? That part I found a little odd. They had to interview people out of town locations due to fear of retaliation as far as to opt in to go virtual, because some of these people didn't want Spera to be able to essentially even see them coming and going from a meeting place that was outside of the town. That was also in the study. 28 of 37 public comments were negative against Spera. Nearly every former officer said that they would take a pay cut to leave OSPD. Officers said that they would come back if Spera wasn't there. Spera handpicking favorites for promotion regardless of qualifications, planting handcuff keys in the back of police cruisers, putting officers' lives at risk. And what I think is absurd is if this was the private sector, if this was any other job, that person would be fired. Absolutely, unequivocally fired. And I think if the police commission wants to get back in the good faith with the general public, and it's something that you can do today, you can take a vote today, whether it be symbolic. I think the police commission should at least take a symbolic vote to call for the resignation of Officer Spera today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next.
One more. Dan Welch.
Hi, I just will make one quick comment. I wrote it to the commission, and I think it's important for them to consider at this point in time. The PERF report needs to be taken as a whole, and conclusions need to be made based on the entirety of the report, not one or two details within the report, because it's the report as a whole that I think that gives most clarity and understanding to the nature and the situation that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Larry?
Another showed up.
Did you say one more?
One more showed up. Roger Cox.
Yes, hello there. My name is Roger Cox. I've traveled Old Saybrook quite a bit, and now that I live here, I've heard some pretty disturbing things, even before I came to this town. About the police. Watch out for the police. If they nip you, it's going to be bad. I haven't heard anything good about Chief Spera. I just want to say, if whatever was left out of this report, it's eventually going to come to light here. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Are we over, Larry?
That's it.
All right. Let's move on to item 3, discussion and possible action to authorize the chair to work with his first selectman to retain counsel to advise the commission with respect to any actions the commission may wish to consider arising out of the final report of the Police Executive Research Forum. I would like to lead off on this one. The PERF report is deeply concerning, to say the least. The expert's assessment is that, quote, most officers leave OSPD because of the unpleasant work environment, close quote. That's page 75 of the report. Some people have submitted comments to us interpreting that conclusion as meaning that the chief must go. Others have supported the chief. We are not operating in the private sector, where executives often serve at will, and a board of directors receiving such a report and being so inclined might say, simply fire the CEO. We operate in the public sector, where the courts have ruled the public sector employees have, quote, property interests, close quote, in their jobs. So we need to understand the legal risks, the probabilities of those risks, and to consider the upsides and the downsides of various courses of action open to us. I think it's important to note that I do not believe the police commission or the town is limited in its responses to adopting, not adopting, or modifying PERF's recommendations. I view PERF's recommendations as presenting their suggestions as to how the town can make adjustments to improve the smooth functioning of the department as it is, and thereby improve morale. Or adjustments that might improve the smooth functioning of the town as a whole. Or adjustments that might strengthen the ability of the commission to exercise the oversight responsibility invested in it by Connecticut law. My concern, in light of the entirety of the PERF report, is that we and the department and the town might implement every single recommendation made by PERF and still not move the needle enough in terms of improving the unpleasant work environment PERF identifies. To me, the real takeaway from the PERF report is that the commission needs to consider the entire range of steps it might take to significantly move that needle. Many such steps would present legal and practical questions which have to be carefully analyzed and assessed to assure that they would serve the best interests of the department as a whole and therefore of the town as a whole. The first selectman has told me that he's willing to work with us, the commission, to engage counsel to advise us in these efforts. Because the quickest, and I believe the surest way to get started is to authorize me to work with Mr. Fortuna to do just that. Once counsel is engaged, subject to the advice of that counsel on any FOIA issue, I foresee an executive session discussion between counsel and the commission in which Mr. Fortuna would participate in his capacity as an ex officio member of the police commission to explore the range of options, excuse me, and the levels and types of risks associated with each of them in light of the threatened claims of litigation made by Chief Sparrow and his attorney. Based on that discussion, the commission can then make its decision how best to proceed on the important questions facing us. Therefore, I invite a motion to that effect, that the chair be authorized to work with the first selectman to retain counsel to advise the commission with respect to any actions the commission may wish to consider arising out of the final report of the Police Executive Research Forum. I invite such a motion.
Can we have more discussion before a motion is made?
Why don't we make the motion?
Okay,
Yeah.
because we're not following our bylaws, that's why I'm.
No,
there a
no,
second?
this is perfectly
No, it's not.
legitimate.
I make that motion, so.
I'll
someone's gonna
second it.
All right, discussion.
Okay, our bylaws state that the vice chairman we should set up a bipartisan subcommittee quickly, because this shouldn't fester or drag. But there should be other members on that committee led by the vice chairman according to our bylaws. For any special project, this falls into that category. It creates fairness, it creates transparency, as opposed to having just you do it and come back and report to us.
Not just me doing it.
You're the representative of our board. We're all equal in
Right.
word. So anyway, that's my suggestion.
Okay.
I think you might have misunderstood. Council should be brought to the entire commission. not
I
to the
understand
chair.
that, but it should
Okay.
be led by your vice chairman according to, because it is a special project outside of our realm.
Sign me up.
Yeah,
Sign me up. I've not been able to be the head of any subcommittee for various reasons. We all know that,
but
so.
that's up to the chairman. It's not up to me. That's what the point I was making.
Any other discussion?
My only discussion is, this is the first step, and I'll be honest with you, this is a step that I should have been taken prior to this study even coming out, because we knew this was going to happen. There was not going to be an issue that everything was just going to go smoothly and quietly. So I hope that we understand that this will be the first step, and the next step needs to be made, pretty fairly quickly. We need to engage with council, with the selectmen. All I hear every day is, why aren't you doing something? Why aren't you doing something? I literally have to bring a phone charger to work because I get so many calls, text messages, Facebook messages. People are looking to us for an answer. That's why we are sitting here. So, I hope that if Chubb can meet with council very quickly, or if I do, whoever it is, I don't care. I want things to move. I feel like we move at a snail's pace and everyone's like, oh, you guys, you can't go too fast. You can't, well, you know what? I'm not built like that. I want to move fast. I want to get things done. We've waited long enough.
Well, I think that a subcommittee in many circumstances is a very efficient way to do business. I don't agree that this is the reason to do it. I like your suggestion that you work with council, with Mr. Fortuna, come up with a plan. Certainly, you're going to need to be laying groundwork
Let me
for
just
whatever
interrupt,
attorney there
because
is.
that's not the concept. The concept is that Mr. Fortuna and I will identify counsel and bring that counsel to the commission, where the commission as a group will be able to talk with counsel,
Okay.
et cetera.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense saying it like
So-
that, Chubb.
Are you in
Then-
agreement with that?
Wait, no,
Let's
no.
Let the discussion.
Wait,
That's
Jessica,
all.
hold on.
Hi.
Wait a minute. Jill was in the middle
I
of,
was in the middle of it.
Oh,
So do you envision that we would possibly be able to meet this attorney as a group sometime? What would be your timeline on
Tomorrow.
this?
probably not Friday night,
I'm good with Friday night, Saturday morning, whatever.
possibly
Same.
next week.
Okay,
I understand that this is just to make the introduction between the three of you, and then it's coming to us.
Right.
Okay.
that's right.
Okay.
It
I
makes a
understand
lot of
Pearl's
sense.
concern
Yeah.
that there was gonna be discussion had and.
And with all due respect to our chairman, I have different views on some things when he comes back, and I would like to make sure that we're
And
part,
we
so
will.
I can take it for face value as opposed to listening to somebody else explain it to me.
I know, but I think the way the motion was made, that it means he's just gonna sit with them and then he's gonna bring them to us.
I get that, but that wasn't
so
the way I
you
took
guys,
it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know.
Hold on, Jessica, I'm going to call on you in just a moment.
I hope so.
If we're done here, Jessica, what did you want to say?
Okay, so I actually prepared for this. There's a couple things. One, the main purpose is to authorize the chair for this discussion is to authorize the chair to collaborate with the first selectman in retaining legal counsel. This counsel would provide advice to the commission regarding any potential actions related to the final report issued by PERF, right?
That's
But
correct.
we have a lot of other things to discuss, like the scope of the council's role. Will the legal counsel advise only on actions directly related to the PERF report, or will their advice extend to a broader issue? Costs and funding, how will the costs, like there's a lot of more potential actions. What actions is the commission considering that necessitate legal advice? Are there proposed policy changes, reforms, or accountability measure based on the report? Transparency. I think at the end of the day, I would appreciate clarification on one point specifically. Does this authorization grant you, Chubb, chairman, the discretion to determine what information or advice from council is presented to the commission as a whole?
No, it does not. That's dependent on the discussions by the commission as a whole. Any further discussion?
So, if I may, thank you. So we're here a week later because of this report being presented in Old Saybrook. So, what I'm gathering at this point is that there's not a lot of people happy on either side. The chief wasn't particularly happy with the process to begin with. The selection process of having a consultant come in and look at this. We've tried in the past, but the way we did it this time is we used the town charter and I identified the provision, solicited 3 bids. The Board of Selectmen brought those bids essentially with one favor to the police commission, and the police commission made the ultimate choice to choose the Police Executive Research Fund. A year later, approximately, here we are. a lot of the folks in the public are not happy. Facebook warriors are not happy. But the fact of the matter is, Renee, and to one of your points, in terms of speed, we've tried in the past to get to this point.
I know, I was
I know, I was too, believe me. We've
We were
tried-
the only two that wanted to keep going.
We've tried 2 other times. We're here, we got here, okay? The evaluation that this police, that this town, with regard to the police department, not Chief Spear, the police department, has been talking about for 10 years, finally got over the finish line. So I think we need to take this report with the due deliberation it deserves and consult counsel, because it's a big report. It said a lot of things. It said positive things and negative things. So what's the path forward? And the path forward, I think properly, should be advised by an attorney. And so I support the chair's motion, bringing it forward. I think it's a proper way to proceed. Otherwise, you are a volunteer commission that meets once a month, more now, but typically once a month. I think an attorney will give this board some guidance moving forward, so that action or inaction can be appropriately explained to the public, so that they fully understand. There was a comment, oh, actually, and I'm gonna come back to you, Renee, again. We all knew what this report was gonna say. We didn't. I didn't know what this report. I don't think anyone knew what any prior reports were gonna say or what this report was going to say. I know you feel differently about that.
I do, because 95% of it I knew.
Okay, but in fairness, if I knew that, then that's inappropriate conduct on my part, and I didn't know that. That's why we engaged an outfit from Washington DC to do an appropriate analysis. So here we are after a year, here we are after 10 years, and I think we need to tackle this in a deliberate but expeditious manner with appropriate counsel. So those are my comments. So I support the motion. I think it has to happen to lay out a path forward, and it will happen it will happen quickly. Now, quickly can be defined in various ways in the public sector. I can assure you that, but it will happen on an appropriate clock. So I'll turn it over to the chair at this point.
Well, I think at this point we should call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Jessica,
Aye.
Carl,
It's unanimous.
thank you. Let's go back to our agenda. Comments from the public. Anyone in the present audience? Yes. Please come forward.
Linda Mahal. So I appreciate the due diligence and deliberation that the committee is planning to undertake. I want to remind the committee that there have been multiple subcommittees led by Republican and Democratic majorities that have failed miserably. And what we have here is a case of rope-a-dope. Right? Everybody knows boxing, rope-a-dope, tire someone out until they lose. And I've seen continuous rope-a-dope from this committee and the Board of Selectmen on these issues. And I want to remind both the Board of Selectmen and this commission that we are talking about human lives. One thing that the PERF report didn't mention were the lawsuits and injuries that have happened in just the past few years. We are talking about human lives, and those people have been silenced by NDAs. So we don't even really get to hear that. But we've paid out money. We've paid out hundreds of thousands of dollars and more to come, I bet, because we haven't dealt with this issue. So we must not say we're going to do nothing because we might get sued. We're already being sued. Come on. So I want you to have the courage of your conviction. I appreciate what Renee said. The public elected or re-elected 6 out of 7 of the members of this board because you ran on a platform of change. There's only one incumbent from a while back, and I would say that he was the best among them, and he's still standing here. But the 6 of you you were elected because the public wanted change. And I demand that the Board of Selectmen support this committee and support this town and support our police officers. Finally, finally, finally. Thank you.
Anyone else in the live audience?
Yeah, I want to say something. Michael Looney, and I told you a long time ago, the problem remains with this commission, the Board of Selectmen, especially the first selectman. The chief isn't always wrong. When he said about the people doing the extra jobs, not to be on the phone and stay out of the car, that's the way that job should be run. That's one thing that they can't criticize him for. But for 15 years, this police commission in this town has not done their job. If you read the goddamn contract that the commission wrote and followed it, we would have had reviews every year. We would have had reviews before he got a raise. You're the fault of how it got to this step. And I told you the $90,000 was going to be a waste of money if you people don't know how to run a police commission. And the first selectman should not get involved in these incidents. I know you're the first selectman, but these people were hired by the town, or elected by the town to run this thing, but they don't know how. And that's the big problem. You paid $90,000 for 15 years of not having control over the chief. All you had to do was read his contract and follow it step by step. You got messed up when Christine Burnham wrote it and nobody picked up on it for 15 years. Well, we're paying the price now. And then both of your attorneys, and you're gonna hire another attorney? Does that make sense? 40 years, I don't know how long you were. But we're paying money for, how many attorneys did you hire for the chief to hide me? 50,000 for one. Not to get a thing released. It's the commission that needs to be rewarded too. None of them have done anything except for name. They don't understand the job. And the state lie in the directive, it tells you what your responsibilities are. You have control. He's the employee, not the other way around. Please take note of that, because if you're going to spend money more and you don't have the control again, whoever replaces them, because you're going to be in the same boat. You're going to have to go outside first of all to get a chief if you replace it.
It's done.
It's time, sir. Thank you.
Just because you mentioned the word morale, again, I just implore you to keep into consideration those of us who stayed, those of us who are happy, and those of us who have confidence in the chief. I don't want to put words in any of my coworkers' mouths. They're gonna do the union statement, but things are pretty good over there right now. I would say morale is good. Again, you can interpret that how you want based on my letter. I put some of that stuff in there, but please keep in mind those of us who stayed with all these recommendations, and again, who have confidence in the chief.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the virtual audience with a hand raised?
First one would be Colin.
Hi there. My name is Colin Heffernan. I just want to briefly address something that Chairman Wilcox said with regard to the public employee having a property right in his role as a municipal employee and how that plays into things. The way that it plays into things is that our general statutes 7-28 states that a police chief essentially cannot be removed absent a show unless he has the opportunity to be heard and unless the police commission decides to remove for just cause. Now that can be used to exaggerate what must be found. The Connecticut Supreme Court in the case of Casella versus the Civil Service Commission has described just cause in the context of dismissal of police and fire department personnel as a reasonable ground for removal as distinguished from a frivolous or incompetent ground. That's it. It doesn't place this super high bar on conduct or have standards that are scary or difficult or really any greater than would have to be proved in a private sector employment. Just cause simply means the grounds has to be reasonable for removal and not frivolous or incompetent. That's all. And I think that that's important for the public and the people of Old Saybrook to recognize. While we have to proceed carefully and ensure that the chief's due process rights are protected, it's protected only to the point where he has an opportunity to confront the accusations against him, and the grounds for any action has to be justified as not frivolous and not incompetent. And that's it. That's all the statute in our Supreme Court has decided. I don't want the words like just cause and that his property right in his employment to be overstated. I don't want them to be understated either, but I certainly don't want there to be the impression that it's anything more than that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Eric,
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, so I got my first spiel out. This one is just kind of a little bit more my voice. I wanted to thank the first two people from the public who spoke. I thought that was very well articulated, and I appreciate your willingness to get the ball rolling, Renee. Thank you for that. I agree with a lot of the sentiment. I think the police commission absolutely needs to figure something out, get some legal counsel. For some reason, if you guys don't end up firing Sparrow, which I think would be a complete injustice for the town of Old Saybrook, the safeguards that would have to be put in place as an alternate would need to be extreme. So every single complaint about Sparrow needs to go to the police commission. Every single exit interview needs to be some completely independent human resource person that is not hired by Sparrow or his buddies. To the woman who spoke from the town, or I think she said she worked for or whatever, of course, maybe potentially at any snapshot in time, the morale might be good at OSPD because we all seem to know, and which everybody in town seems to know, is he picks his little minions. He picks his little people that he likes, and then he kind of promotes them, and then he keeps his buddies close. Okay, that doesn't help the 27 other officers who almost completely unanimously view different. You're just picking anecdotes. Those same officers could get on his bad side next week and then go quit. This is something that the entire town has known about. This is not new. And, you know, since the police commission tonight, Sparrow, since they did not call for your resignation, I am calling for your resignation, Sparrow. I don't know why you even want to be at this police department anymore. No one wants you here for all intents and purposes.
Larry.
Please resign.
Larry,
Please resign, Sparrow.
I think that we should remember that we are not engaged, we should not be engaged in personal attacks here. I would like the discussion limited to points of policy, points of procedure, points of substantive merit, not personal attacks. If we have.
yes, we do.
Who do we have next?
Mark.
Hi,
Mark.
My name is Mark Holbrook. I'm new to town, but have been around Old Saybrook for quite a while. I think Chief Sparrow does a good job at certain things. When it comes to administration, as far as writing certain grants that need to be done and that type of thing, Chief Sparrow does an awesome job. When it comes to personnel, that's where he lacks. I think the commission is being very, I think they're running scared. You're running scared from someone who you're afraid that might do something. Who's the boss here? Who runs this overall, seeing what's supposed to happen for the town? And why aren't you doing something now? Make a decision, do something, and then move on from there and see and follow what needs to be done. Not sit here and say, okay, we're going to form a commission, we're going to do this. You people watch Congress. You see what happens in the Congress in the United States, in the United States Senate. What do? They send it to a commission. How long does it last in the commission? Well, let me see. Commission does this, does that, and everything else. And what happens? Nothing. Do something. Do something and do it now. Don't wait, because all you're doing is making things fester longer and longer and longer. You're not making a decision. Make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Larry?
Kelly Davis.
Hi, I just wanted to second what the gentleman said in the yellow coat. Again, it starts at the top. We really need to hold the commission accountable for a lot of the things that have happened multiple times for multiple years at multiple different levels. If there needs to be coaching, if there needs to be mentoring, if we need to get somebody in there and spend the money on that, I think that that's important. But we need to stop with the rope-a-dope, as the first community member had said, and stop tossing the ball around. Stop having committees, have one more meeting, get your counsel, get your recommendations, and let's move. But this doesn't solely fall on Chief Spira. This is something, again, worst kept secret in town. And I can't be the only one that knows that. So we have to stop having committees, stop having meetings, stop hiding behind little policies here and there. This has become a problem that's become a matter of state newsworthiness, okay? This is everywhere. This is not a shining moment for us. Let's get it together. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry?
Jim Shake.
Mr. Shake?
Good evening, can you hear me?
Hello? We can hear you.
You can hear me. Okay, Jim Shake, you heard from Sergeant Walsh, the senior sergeant. I am the senior dispatcher with the Department of Police Services, going into my 19th year. And, I've heard some comments tonight, but what's concerning is that, when this whole thing started, I made a comment in a commission meeting that said, you're going to have an outside agency come and look. And if that agency that's being looked at is dotting every I, crossing every T, running on all 8 cylinders, it's going to be noted. And I also said if there were some opportunities, there would be some opportunities to change for the better. A lot of different comments tonight. I'm quite sure that the people that talked to Perf, everybody that talked to them that was an employee or an ex-employee or whatever, it's all their work experience, their individual work experience, and how they felt and perceived how they were treated at the Department of Police Services. Sergeant Walsh indicated that they got rid of some bad apples, and yeah, there were some bad apples that had to go, and they did go. But I don't know that I heard anybody that walk out the door, the majority walk out the door, say, I'm leaving for better pay and a better schedule and better benefits. There were some underlying circumstances. Officer Tanner made a comment that morale is good. And I guess for the most part, that may be right. However, I'm there every day, and I notice a lot of distrust since this perf study came out. Everybody's wondering, who said what to perf? Who said that? Who leaked this? I mean, I heard it all day today. Unfortunate, but that's the way it is. I see this whole thing, and I've certainly read the report every comma, capital letter, and quotation mark. And this report, in my opinion, is a clarion call to action. And it's a clarion call to action, obviously, for the chief executive of the town, Mr. Fortuna, for each and every member of the commission. And what the perf report said is the commission needs to be able to do its job and be able to do it without fear of any problems whatsoever. Yeah, have you got to get legal counsel for something like this? Damn straight you do, and you should.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shake. That's their time. Thank you. Any others, Larry?
That was the last one.
All right, let's move to comments from the chief of police, Chief Sparrow.
Excuse me, we need to have a vote on the motion.
We already did.
We did.
We did?
Yeah.
Oh,
It was unanimous.
sorry, there's been so
Take
many.
that mouth off it, not getting that.
I know, I can't hear you. Yeah, exactly. Sorry about that, I apologize.
You even voted.
Yeah, I know, kidding.
Chief.
All set.
Comments from commissioners?
I have a comment.
Sure.
I'm a little frustrated. I've been on the police commission for quite a long time, and my frustration ranges from police officers not using the union to come forward and fight for them at a police commission meeting. Not once did a complaint come before us that there was problems going on at the police department. People left and didn't say anything. There was even a comment in the perf report that somebody left and got rehired even though they had something baggage with them. So I don't understand with union representation why nobody had enough courage to come forward and at least acknowledge that there's an issue and bring it to the police commission. I hope in the future that happens. But it's hard to justify a problem if you don't know about the problem. You hear rumors, but without physically knowing about a problem, it's frustrating.
Thank you, sir. Jessica, any comment?
Yes, no, I do. Just one. Well, one not so lengthy, but one. Can I speak?
Yes.
Okay, great. I really just would like to see us deal with this in a way that's not so in 10 years people don't say, oh well, Jessica Kaye or Chubb Wilcox or Jill Notarfrancisco, wrote this off or did this. Like, I want to do it in a right way, and I hope that it is done in the right way. And I also think that we also have to question within ourselves, okay, so was it good this year? Was it good last year? Like, did everything get solved? Were there problems? And I'm not going either way on this. It's more, we have to take this year by year even. We can't go back 12 years and solve their problems. We have to solve today's problems. That's all.
Thank you very much. I thank the commissioners for their vote on this. I thank First Selectman for his support in this. And I am looking forward to getting hard at work on this.
I'd like to thank Carl I listened to the Board of Selectmen meeting. I was at work, so I could only hear so much. And I'll be honest, I put it on last night and you put me to sleep. I fell asleep listening, but I did go back and watch it. I appreciate that you made a move on some of those items that I do believe were the town's responsibility. That I feel like we're moving forward. I think tonight was a good move, but like I said, I'm somebody who likes things a little bit faster. So I know you're gonna tell me to put on the brakes, but you know how I am, so I will be pushy.
Can I make one small rebuttal?
Sure.
I was not trying to stonewall things by talking about setting up a committee. The problem is a lot of times we go forward and do things on our own and it has no teeth at the end because you don't have full buy-in. I just wanted to make sure that we're fully bought into this because we make a decision, nobody's left hanging.
Well, we have a unanimous vote, so there is full buy-in.
I get it,
Yeah.
but at the time when I read this, I took it a little differently.
Well, I
That's
even
why we have
misinterpreted
discussion.
it at the beginning. So,
All right. I invite a motion to adjourn.
so moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.